I have a few words to say today on the speech from the throne, and in particular, Justin Trudeau's legacy, his legacy of scandals. The first aspect of Justin Trudeau's legacy that I want to point out about is his record and his government's record on ethics. The motion on the speech from the throne is the ideal venue for this, as I will cover a lot of general policy of the government. Historically, the Liberal Party of Canada has always fostered a culture of nepotism and corruption. But the Trudeau Liberals are a special breed of Liberals. First, they are totally incompetent. So their many, many ethical breaches are a mix of goofiness, incompetence, and moral turpitude. The Trudeau Liberals are also special in their belief that whatever they do, even if it is unethical, is done for a higher cause. They truly believe they are above the law and that the ethics rules are only for mere mortals, not for them, the great justice warriors. David McNaughton was the first and only ambassador that was investigated and found guilty by the Ethics Commissioner in Canadian history. Wow. Speaking of the Ethics Commissioner, following the resignation of Mario Dion, the Liberal government decided to appoint Martin Richard, Dominique LeBlanc's sister-in-law, to replace him. They didn't see anything wrong there until the public uproar forced Ms. Richard to step down. Again, to quote Andrew Coyne, they are literally incapable of conceiving of themselves doing wrong. Appointing your sister-in-law cannot be nepotism when you are a Liberal. Not my words, Andrew Coyne's. Julie Plett was appointed as Governor-General in 2017. She was handpicked by the Prime Minister himself after he refused to follow the process put in place by Prime Minister Harper to have a committee vet the nomination. Surprising for somebody who likes committees to help him do his appointments. She was appointed without a thorough due diligence. Now, a vetting process would have shown she was investigated for running over a pedestrian. It would have shown that she was investigated for violence against her spouse. It would have shown that in all her previous positions, she had to deal with accusations of harassment. We have learned that from the media after she was appointed. Madame Plett immediately hired her good friend as principal secretary. She requested renovations to Rideau Hall to give her the possibility of exiting the building out the back door without having to see those pesky tourists that come to visit Rideau Hall. She managed to insult Canadians who believe in God in her first speech. And she decided to freelance in the speech from the throne. She had her plane fly her from Ottawa to Maribel, a 20-minute flight, so she could go to her cottage with meals cooked by her chef at Rideau Hall. And when the stories about her treatment of her staff became public, Justin Trudeau had no choice other than to fire this modern-day Marie Antoinette. Now, this would not have been so bad if our actual Governor-General was a superstar. But on the contrary, you hear about her only when media is able to learn about her lavish expenses. Like $100,000 for food on flights to Dubai, the equivalent of $218 per plate. This trip, where she invited 40 friends and acquaintances, cost Canadian taxpayers $1.3 million. Wow. Spending at Rideau Hall increased 11% in 2022, and we can expect a similar number for 2023. Cost of the vice-regal office is now around $40 million annually. And even if this is an eye-popping amount, the Trudeau government rejected an all-party demand for more public accounting and scrutiny of Governor-General Mary Simon's expenses. You have to wonder why the government is so afraid to show the details of those expenses. When news came out that China managed to meddle in Canadian elections, the Prime Minister tried to hide the help he got from Beijing's communist government by using Mr. David Johnston. Trudeau appointed his family friend, his ski buddy, his cottage neighbor, and a member of the Beijing-funded Trudeau Foundation to this fake job of special rapporteur intended to legitimize another Liberal cover-up. After 8 months of denying clear evidence of conflict of interest, after refusing to respect the will of Parliament to allow a public inquiry, and after hiring Liberal lawyers and consultants to try to legitimize this sham process, the Prime Minister's rapporteur finally did the right thing and resigned. This circus cost taxpayers millions of dollars in fees to well-connected Liberals for nothing. Let me quickly go through a list of the greatest hits of the government scandals under Justin Trudeau. I won't go through all of them. It would take weeks. I will only go over a couple of examples. First, there are those funds given to bigoted anti-racism consultants. Yes, you heard it correctly. Folks who pretend to be against racism, but is only a facade. Laith Marouf, a well-known violent anti-Semite, received $500,000 from the Trudeau government for his work on racism. That was not an isolated incident. The Community Media Advocacy Centre from Montreal also received grants, even if this organization regularly posts anti-Semite diatribes. Minister Omar El-Gabra never explained how an anti-Semitic organization which called the Holocaust a hoax and praised the killing of Jews was invited to a Parliament Hill reception he organized. And there are others like this. It is not surprising, then, that the Liberals are selective on which racism needs to be combated. They are funding a group called Canadian Anti-Hate Network, who themselves admit they will not deal with anti-Semitism by leftist groups because they focus on hate from the extreme right. No hate on the left. It is not just the consultants that can be anti-Semitic. The Liberals will also hire anti-Jews in ministers' offices. A senior legal advisor to the Liberal Crown Indigenous Relations Minister shared social media posts condoning Palestinian revolutionary violence and supporting Palestinian liberation through whatever means necessary, and used a hashtag calling for the destruction of Israel. There is also the case of Amira El-Gwabi, the so-called special representative on combating Islamophobia, who once said that a decade of Stephen Harper as Prime Minister was more hurtful than 9/11. She has a very narrow focus. She sees only one type of discrimination, sees it everywhere coming only from the right side. Another high-priced Liberal appointee that brings nothing and has no credibility. In 2020, Medicago, Inc., a firm in John Duclos' riding, was paid $150 million for COVID-19 vaccines that were never delivered. It received $173 million in research money, a total of $323 million in federal aid. Medicago was to build a vaccine factory, but that never happened. Once again, the Liberals, with the help of their friends, shut down any investigation into why the taxpayers paid such an amount and received absolutely nothing in return. The Liberals are now spending more than $21 billion, yes, billion, dollars a year on outside consultants. even though the public service has grown by 100,000 people since 2015. Justin Trudeau still doubled the amount of taxpayers' money sent to consultants. McKinsey, Dominic Martin's firm, the guy I already spoke about, received more than $100 million since his friend Justin Trudeau came to power. KMG, Deloitte, PwC, EY, they all got rich under this government. It is so bad that the Liberals actually gave a contract to KPMG to study how to reduce the number of contracts given to consultants. It would be funny if it wasn't so terribly, terribly sad. No wonder this government is morally bankrupt. It comes from the top. Katie Telford and Gerald Butts received more than $200,000 to move to Ottawa, even though they had been working for years in Trudeau's office. Where? Right here in Ottawa. But I guess they moved across the street. Let me turn to what I think is the podium, the top three of the Liberal government scandals so far. And I say so far because we have no idea what we might learn about the Liberals' corruption down the road. There could be a book on each one of these, or at least a long chapter in Trudeau's biography. So I will not get into all the details. I'll just give you a reminder. The first scandal in the top three is the SNC-Lavalin affair. This started when the Liberals snuck a change into the criminal code, into the budget bill, to allow the government to make deals with corporations found guilty of corruption. Again, preempting. We know there will be corrupt people, so let's find a way out for them. This came after months of intense lobbying by SNC officials and their lawyers on several Liberal officials, including the Prime Minister's office. There were several allegations of corruption of officials in Canada and around the globe against the engineering and construction firm SNC-Lavalin. The Prime Minister himself pressured the Attorney General, Judy Wilson-Raybould, to sign an agreement to let SNC off the hook. She was of the opinion that SNC did not meet the criteria that were in the provisions added to the criminal code just months before. But the Prime Minister sent his most trusted advisor and his clerk of the Privy Council to make it clear to the minister she better obey or else. The second member of the top three Trudeau scandals is the We Charity. You'll remember that the government signed a contract with We Charity where this organization would have had close to $1 billion to hand out to young Canadians. We Charity was an organization that had deep ties to the Trudeau family and then the finance minister. The Prime Minister's office and the Liberal Party, members of the Trudeau family, were paid by We Charity. Bill Morneau and his family were brought on a lavish trip to Africa. One question that bothers me about the We scandal is why the Prime Minister and his ministers thought it was a good idea to give a third party that had zero relevant experience $1 billion to throw away to an undefined group of people based on criteria so loose you could fit anything into it. On the face of it, this program made absolutely no sense. It was a feel-good operation blowing money to fake social entrepreneurs. It is mind-boggling that We Charity could stand a due diligence of more than 10 minutes before one realized it was built on lies and deception. In fact, when media started to scratch the surface, We Charity House of Cards came tumbling down. But thankfully, the program was stopped in its tracks, not because Justin Trudeau and his ministers suddenly realized they had made a mistake. No, it is because the obvious conflicts of interest were laid bare. The Liberals never thought that there could be a problem with choosing We to do this work. It is incredible that there could be these many conflicts of interest converging on one government program, and yet it didn't raise any red flags with anyone in the Prime Minister's office or around the cabinet table. The government spent $60 million on an app that was supposed to cost $80,000. The app turned out to be badly designed and flawed. Again, thanks to the work of the Conservatives, the Auditor General was called in to investigate this. Her report was damning. It uncovered a system of corruption running through the bureaucracy where bureaucrats pose as consultants, where contracts are given to phony organizations, where work is done after several intermediaries take a cut. For example, GC Strategies and its partners have become multi-millionaires under the Trudeau government and admitted that they were paid up to $2,600 an hour for recruiting and doing no actual IT work. We don't know the full extent of this scandal. The NDP Liberal cover-up coalition is trying desperately to stop the media and the MPs from getting to the bottom of how Justin Trudeau gave millions of dollars to this shady two-person IT firm that did no actual IT work.